Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roundup here on BloodbowlLive. Here to go through all of the week's action from the last week of the A&DBBL Season 9. We've got 11 games to go through, and Scott and Tom are here to join me flying through all 11 fixtures that we've got this week. Some very good games, some very interesting games, and we will dive straight in. Almost. There's one thing I want to remind everyone about, in case you missed it on a previous episode. The very kind listener that we have, Mr. Pat van der Reest, said that he would donate some money to charity in the name of the person that got the most casualties throughout a season caused by either tackle or diving tackle. If anyone does get a casualty through tackle or diving tackle, let us know. Contact myself, Tom, or Scott, or email into bloodbowllive@gmail.com so that we can keep a little tally. And whoever's got the most will get some money donated to a charity of our choice in their name, courtesy of Mr. Pat van der Rees. So a big thank you to Pat, one of our dedicated listeners, for offering that kind donation. So everyone remember your tackle and diving tackle. That's the reminders in. Let's now dive into the first game. And the first game is a 3-0 victory for the Dark Elves Smoking a Pancake versus the Wildermere Wasps. We have spent the last few weeks asking the question, Scott's very good with his elves, but can he do it on a cold, wet night on the Blood Bowl field? And the answer is yes. Scott, do you want to run us through this one? You finally got that SPP you were hunting for and that casualty you were hunting for.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, chat. Yes, I can do it on a cold, wet night in the middle of a Blood Bowl pitch. And I can roll some dice and play Blood Bowl as well. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Straight from the Tom Hovell book of Netflix gags. One of the days for Simon as well in terms of this match. As you can see, the pouring rain started off. Simon won the toss, elected to receive. I took the kick. The kick went very, very, very deep. So it went back and ended up bouncing into Simon's touch end zone. Simon had obviously set up to punch a lot of elves squarely, and sometimes some people will say deservedly in the face. Didn't quite come to fruition, so I was able to get a line of elves between his line of scrummage and the ball, pressurizing it, which really, really, he was down because he's missing his favorite Moonface Gobbo as well, the very anarchic Gobbo. So I pressurized it, managed to get the first score, which was Dave, the Prince of Ipswich Rue. Good evening, Dave, if you're on. And then managed to, pressurize it and get that second touchdown as well. So that was a key thing. So on the second kickoff event, the ball actually came forward and landed right on the square. Well, so right on the line of scrummage. So it was there, a bit of pressure, able to pick it up, knock someone to block someone into the ball to scatter, picked it up, went, scored 2-0. And then it was sort of holding on to it to the end as well. So Simon, as you can see, was fouling as best he could. Did take out Witch Elf with a niggling injury, but it was one of those really holding on and making sure we got through to the end of it with all the key players there. So yeah, first one, and hooray, as you can see, first casualty of the season. It's only taken 5 matches, but woohoo, there you go, I'll take it. Still not finding a full love and that fluidity with the elves, to be honest. Simon also, one of the challenges for Simon, of course, playing with just the one reroll. And from what Simon was saying, and if he's in chat, good evening, Simon, he was explaining that in previous matches, he probably thought he got away with a few things, but unfortunately on this occasion, not to be. So 3-0 win at 15 SP, double the season tally to date. I'll take it. We moved on to the next one.
Tom, it's been interesting watching some of the games in this group because I think we thought there was some, we knew there were some big hitters in there. Scott was a difficult one probably to judge because it's a brand new team. It's a, low skilled team, but he's played elves before. It's interesting watching lots of coaches kind of take points away from each other. This feels like another one of those based on kind of Scott's games leading up to this and based on Simon having a few good games. This is another kind of case of coaches just all taking points away from each other and no clear person kind of making sort of inroads.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's looking at the actual group, it's the group with the most redrafts as well. Because I was looking at this at the kind of team value, and I was thinking, surely you're going to get something against a redrafted Black Hawk team, but no, because unfortunately elves come with such a high value. You unfortunately didn't get anything a little bit extra on that one. But well done. Clearly, you have to be slippery and wet to perform by the looks of things.
Scott.
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you, Tom. Should we move on to there's 10 more matches to get on. It's not all about me, as we know.
Well done, Scott. A very well-deserved first win of the season. Hard luck to Simon. He's got some good results, and there's still a fourth place in this group to grab. So I think Simon is still in the hunt for that. Moving on to the next game that we've got then, and it is another high scorer, and it's a 4-0 victory for the Disco Danger Rats versus I Hate Blood Bowl. Rats versus Goblins here, an emphatic win for the Skaven side. Getting 20 SPP in the process and not losing too many players as well. Scott, I'll come to you first. James is bringing Skaven this season. We knew the omen that was. And this is his third game of the season where he's come away with 4 touchdowns. I don't want to quote Tom Hovell, but is
No,
that an
please,
easy?
please quote Tom Hovell.
Is that an easy thing to do?
No. So well done, James. Almost a perfect evening. 20 SP, 90,000 in terms of goal piece winnings as well. And as you said, 4 touchdowns on there, able to really build on his skills as well. The only thing I was disappointed in with this match was really James's level of satisfaction. It was on Thursday evening slightly bordering on smugness, and we know James is cheeky, yes, but he's not that sort of player. But it was just he was clicking his heels a bit too enthusiastically. So it's something we might have to just keep an eye on in terms of the Blood Bowl administration and code of conduct and the ethics committee going forward as well. But I'm just very jealous. I think James is playing these rats phenomenally well. Some of the skills are now ridiculous. Yeah, so kudos to James. And I think looking at it from Elliot's perspective, he just didn't get the dice. He didn't get the roll, and when things don't go your way against rats, they can capitalize very, very, very quickly.
This game was live. You can catch this over on the YouTube channel to watch all of the action. Tom, I think probably the most impressive thing about this isn't the fact it's a 4-0 win. It's the fact that James didn't go 1-0 up until turn 10. So that is 4 touchdowns in 6 turns. In turn 10, turn 12, turn 14, and turn 16. I mean, that is I think you have to sometimes have some luck to get that. There's probably some things that went one way and didn't go the other, but gutter runners can punish you.
Yeah, absolutely. And equally not being phased that Morgan Thorg is on the pitch as well.
Well, on that, sorry, Tom, just to jump in there, one thing just to share. So I did forget, and I do need to shout out where it was. Morg, having Morg on the opposition is a bit of an icing on the cake, but actually James put himself in a position he was able to chain surf Morg off and then get a crowd surf casualty on Morg as well. So that is really the icing on the. You can see why James would be right, a little bit of a cheeky boy smugness there. And if I'd done that, I'd be very, very smug about that as well, because that's a very, very, impressive thing to pull off.
Absolutely. And he has proven the fact, as I said before, every game he's won, he's scored 4 touchdowns so far. So it's true what they say about Skaven.
I would recommend anyone jumps in and watches this one again. There's clearly looking at the timestamps on it as well, an insane half an hour of 4 touchdowns that you'll be able to watch over on the YouTube channel. So go and check this one out. Elliot struggling a little bit maybe with Goblins, but they are a team that does can be difficult. They are a team with their gimmick of their weapons and all of this that you can do on their day. They can absolutely destroy a team. I'm sure he will have been hoping for a few more casualties. He got 2 out of the game in this one, and looking at the injuries that were sustained, they were both on clan rats. So James has come out of this really, really strong. If you Generally, people will say that for Skaven, if you lose a player per touchdown you score, you're doing well. So to only lose 2 and their linemen and they're only badly hurt in a 4-0 win is an absolute win. So well done to James. Hard luck to Elliot Morg, clearly not quite doing what would have been hoped of him in this game. We'll see how that has affected the table later on, but James looks like one to be in this group for sure. Elliot absolutely still in the running, though, for a top 4 space. There are many games left to be played. Scott, we're going to come back to you. And after the highs of the 3-0 win, we got to a 2-1 loss to the Necromantic Horror here to Mr. Dave Rue and his Foxhall Road Scavengers. Lovely painted team, lovely logo. I do like them. And a good 2-1 victory here, 12 SPP for the Necromantic Horror side. With a touchdown coming in the second half. Looks to me like a beautiful 2-1 grind, possibly from Dave, but a very good result, pushing him back towards the top of the table. I think at the time this game was played, this put him on the top spot, but other games played later in the week changed that up a little bit. Scott, why don't you tell us how this one differed? Dave's side is he's being quite patient, quite selective with his skills. He's got block on some key players there. Was that a factor here?
It was a bit more of a factor in terms of the skills. We discussed it. I thought the color scheme was a bit suspect, and maybe the paint finishing could have been improved. But
how
that's
rude.
Life. I took the mighty Akel, who actually, when he went off during the game as an injury, he actually did a beautiful threw into a cage, 1 dice, and of course he got skull. So it was always, the squirrel is so good up until a point. Before that, it was just to say thank you to Dave. It was a very lovely evening. It was an evening of sophistication for what I think are 2 very discerning individuals. We had the pleasure of playing outside Hopsters, which is lovely. And we were talking to a lot more people about it. You could see the individuals who wanted to come up and say hello. You could see individuals who were interested in Blood Bowl, but didn't want to go and ask because then maybe they were with parents, families, wives, and all that good stuff. So, but it was a lovely evening, some lovely beers as well. Dave scored, of course, tried to measure out, tried to pressurize him into, I pressured heavily, and he went through the middle, got some good blocks and moved into a scoring position. Tried to stall, decided not to, and scored onto him 6. I went for it to score in 2 turns, almost got it off, despite the ball going backwards in towards my end zone. Almost got it, and I was actually did a lovely bit of elf bullshittery, which really was wonderful. And even Scott Phipps came out, and someone in the crowd later said they were loving the way that for all 3 of us that watching that dice roll, it was all such an emotional roller coaster. So I did a lovely 4+ dodge in to get a 1 dice on Dave's wolf, got a stumble, sidestepped my sidestep player, ironically, and then that put me in a position to do a 3-up, 2-up dodge out, running towards the line. Had to do couple of just go for it with a reroll, and you can all guess what happened next, just to keep it thematically consistent this season. So that 1 into a 1 and that failed, meant it was 1-0 at half time. And the one thing I've sort of done, and maybe it's cost me a bit this season, but I'm not really worried about it. I went and scored as quick as I could. So again, as you can see, that's another turn 10 touchdown. So, 2 turn touchdown in the second half, and then just trying to see where we could go. I did get a couple of blitzes on the ball during that second half, was unable to get any powers or anything relevant. And then when Dave scored, I pressurized him, and he did decide to take the score there, as you can see on turn 13. And again, it got to a point whereby, but for a 3-up dodge out, I believe it was. Oh no, it was a 3-up catch, wasn't it? Wrong. It was apart from a 3-up, it would have been 2-all, but on another day, it could have been 1-all, it could have been 2-all, it was 2-1. So yeah, it was a very, very great entertainment. The one thing I just want to quick say to all of the coaches in Middenheim, and I've got one left to play, but it's just been such an enjoyable games this season. Yeah, okay, I've only got the 1 win, c'est la vie, that's live, that's Blood Bowl. But the enthusiasm, the enjoyment, and everybody, enjoying the Blood Bowl games. I hope people feel it's been reciprocated because I've had a really enjoyable season.
Dave's in the chat saying, "Don't forget the ref sending you off on kickoff as well." Clearly, wouldn't
Yeah,
have
just a
been
little
overly
thing.
helpful.
That's life, isn't it? So
I was going to ask what, because it says turn 6 sent off, and then turn 7 you had a foul by a zombie lineman. So yeah, okay, so you got sent off on that kickoff. Oh, not good.
tried my best, but hey, that's life, isn't it? So that's what we all love.
As you say, you've still got one game to play, but you've got quite a variety of teams you've been up against, and that's one thing I've seen across all of the groups. Potentially with the exception of ours, Chris, is that there is none of the same teams. Everyone's playing slightly different, and there's a range of them. So there's agility, there's bashy teams, there's mixes. So it looks like it's been a fun but equally quite a devastating group for you.
It has, Tom. It's been a lot of fun. It's been playing, as I said, the nice thing is I haven't played any of these other coaches before, apart from Luke Baggett, but then we don't talk about that anyway. And he did rob me, but we won't talk about that anyway.
Is that why you got him sent off?
That's why I try my best to get him sent off, yeah.
A quick word on Dave then, Tom. He started the season with a loss against Dwarfs. Since then, he has got 3 wins from 3 in this group, started to build a little bit of momentum. You think he's probably maybe only 1 more win away from what is probably enough to qualify, but could be close depending on how results go. A good showing, because Necromantic can be a difficult team to skill up. But he's kind of done well to get the right SPP in the right places.
Absolutely, yeah. He's now got 1 block and 1 dodge werewolf, a block flesh golem, which, to be honest, is really good. Once you've got them with block or guard, or they're a nice roadblock for people. And also, he's got an annoying zombie lineman now with Fend on a random. Shame he's got one of the race out at the moment. Were they as annoying as they always are for you, Scott?
I think I only failed the 2. Yeah, they were actually, Tom. The stained bed sheets. Dave's stained bed sheets were frustrating, and they did cost me a couple of blitzes. Actually, I did roll the 1, so you'll be pleased with that. We were talking, and obviously Dave was saying about possibly this is season 1 of maybe season 2. I think the challenge with Necro, and sure, Jane will attest to this as well. When you get to a certain point, they become slightly cost prohibitive when it comes to redrafting and efficiently redrafting, because what you end up doing is obviously building your team around just 2 or 3 really good players.
Well done to Dave for a good result here, putting him in a good position in this group. We'll have a look at the table a little bit later on and see what other results went their way. But we will move on then to our next game, and it is Jack's last game of the season here, a 2-1 victory over Sir Huntington's Folly, the Gnomes getting their first game in. And I think an impressive thing to look at here is a 2-1 victory while sustaining 5 casualties is a very interesting way to go. Looking at some of those casualties, there's some miss next games in there, but only on a beer bore. There's a armor break and a movement break, but both on linemen. So I think probably as far as injuries go, Jack will be pretty pleased that the key players in his squad are not impacted. Tom, coming to you first then. It would have been a game against a stunty team, albeit a very well-skilled stunty gnome team. There are lots of good players in there, a tree with block, lots of dodging gnomes there. So it won't have been the easiest stunty obstacle to overcome, but he has done it well.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks quite, as you quite rightly pointed out, quite a brutal match as well. A lot of casualties on both sides. Mainly, unfortunately, though, on the Norse, which is unusual when you think of these teams. But Songerton's Folly is highly skilled now. The majority of the linemen have all got dodge. Clearly, the foxes are constantly being renewed, shall we say, as they're probably no doubt being absolutely squashed. The nest is looking probably one of the nastiest big guys in the whole league. By the looks of things, with block, grab, and juggernaut now. So it's a really dangerous team, and I think Jack did well with it, but equally we know what Jack's got on his team, and to get away with still keeping all those key positionals that he's got, those Valkyries and Ulfers, they've all got all those skills. They're just dying. One of them's going to get squashed at some point.
Yes, he's done well to keep them alive up to this point. Just to quickly answer a question in the chat, Jack has played all his games now, but everyone else has got until the 7th of September, Sunday, the 7th of September, as the shop closes. That is the deadline for games to be played. Anyone who still has a few left. Scott, a word on Tom and his gnomes here. It's his first game of the season. It's not often that you come away with a 2-1 loss, but take away more of the SPP. And having not lost any key players and having the roster that he's got, I think he can be quietly confident about the season that's left for him.
I think there's a lot for Tom to build on with the Honkinger's Folly. Having 3 trees is always a good thing, and taking deep root, who, as you can see from the casualties inflicted, did most of the damage. That's always going to be a tough ask, whoever you're playing and whoever is playing against that team as well. Plenty to play for, as Tom alluded to. Really, got one of the best big guys now currently in the league, and he's got a lot of inducements, so that will give Tom the flexibility with these gnomes as well. He can go tree heavy and take the 3 trees, or he might decide to mix it up and do things differently, so and put more of an edge star player in if he wants to. So lots of opportunities for him as well, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. 6 games rather left to play, all to play for, Chris.
Good luck to Tom with the remainder of his games in this group. And well done to Jack for getting all his games in so quickly. He sits currently at the top of his group on 12 points, or near the top of his group on 12 points. He's asking the same questions as me. Is 12 points enough? It could be. I think the line is going to be around 12, but we will have a look at the tables a little bit later on. Jumping then to the Swamp Dome group, and we've got the Melton Mudpackers and the Eagles of Corn in a 1-1 draw here. 6-3 to the Corn on casualties. A very, very good bashy result here. And you've got to say, Tom, in this group, I don't know, you've not faced both of these, but you haven't faced Andy yet, but you've faced Mike with his Corn team.
Mm-hmm.
And I am really struggling to call any game in our group, and the table kind of shows why. There's so many teams on roughly same number of points. Coaches are taking points away from each other left, right, and center. If every remaining game in our group was a draw, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And this has kind of showed that. Andy came into this unbeaten. Dubes came into this with a slightly sort of not the best start, but some wins. It's so difficult to call.
Yeah, absolutely. And considering this is Dub's first league, he has been playing outstanding. I really wish I could have his dice. Some of those dice rolls have been phenomenal. It's one of those ones where you look at it and you think, yep, that looks about right. But why is the casualties seem to be okay? If only there had been a death or two would have really kind of made it good. Equally, having Varg and Skitter stab, which is interesting, really, considering that it was a 1-1. So, as you say, Corn really held them to it, which is great. So the first touchdown was on turn 8. So clearly, I don't know the full extent of it, but it obviously looks like Andy was playing the long game and scoring on the last turn of the first half. And then, obviously, by the sounds of things, it's carried on all the way to the final penultimate turn, really. So the touchdown on turn 14 on that side of things. So good match all in all. Casualties on both sides. Good points on all of them.
It's looks like Skitter was injured on turn 6, so didn't make it the whole game. Just before the lead was taken by the Snotlings. And Andy's in the chat saying we were down to a handful of players by the end. So quite a clinical removal of a lot of key pieces from the Corn side. Scott, we've seen Andy utilize star players, and we've seen sort of Hackflem appear a few times. It's the second time we've seen Varag now as well. I think it could have been very easy to look at Andy's season if we'd seen Morgan Hackflem every single time and seen kind of them make a big impact. What I think is quite interesting off the back of this one is he's not been able to take Morgan Hackflem. Instead, he has taken Varag and he's taken Skitter. He clearly knows more combinations than just what you think is the standard, and he's able to make them work enough to get a point out of the game. So really showing some versatility.
I think it is. One thing I know, Andy's in chat tonight. Evening, Andy. One thing I'd be interested to understand is his thought process in terms of, I can understand taking Hackflem every time because he's such a beast of a player, and rightly for 230k. But taking Skitter Skitter over that, when you've got a stab, strength 2, armor 8, when you're playing Corn, or toughness 10, armor 10. That was quite an intriguing choice, bit risky maybe, because it does leave you open to that counter punch if you don't get your stab away. So interested in understanding with that one as well. Andy, just wondering what star to take against Orcs. Any idea? Yeah, not Skitter. But I think as well, first of all, credit to Mike as well for getting a draw out of this against what was a very challenging, because having those 2-star players is a very challenging, but it is a puzzle to unlock without doing it. But just a shout out to Mike, he's got the best named big guy, I think, of the tournament, certainly in season 9 as well, having a Bloodspawn called the Black Stripe Nightmare Pig. That's a great one, isn't it? Come on, can't beat that this season. So I think he's done very, very well for his first foray, as it were, into that. He's doing very, very well, as we shall come on to see in his other matches as well. And it feels like this sort of gave him a bit of a boost, a bit of a confidence to move on up the table.
Yeah, we'll look at the other 2 fixtures of his later on. I think it's quite Skitter and Varag is an interesting combo because it feels like diet Morgan Hackflem, but I guess in taking it, you do get some of the key benefits. You get some of the extra punchiness, you get some of the extra pace that you get from Morgan Hackflem, but you also get some additional inducement money that he was able to spend on bribes and heady brew as well. So it's interesting to see kind of how he's balancing what he can take and what kind of gives him the best benefit. We will move on to the next game, and we will definitely be back at the Eagles of Corn later on because there are 2 more games to cover. But we're going to take a little brief trip down Blobby Lane to the other Snotling team in this group, and a 2-1 victory for the Boneyard Blitzers versus the Snotlings, 5-1 on the casualties here. Tom, we were talking a little bit before this game about how Snotlings on their own are a very frustrating thing to face. Snotlings and the enthusiasm that Phil brings with his blobby vibe this season is phenomenal enthusiasm, but my god, there's a lot of blobbies going on, and sometimes you can just lose track. How did you get on in this one?
Yeah, this was it was an interesting match, really. First time kind of playing against Snotlings in league, and it was frustrating at times, but there were some quite nice moments from my side. Got off to a good start, started causing casualties straight from the off. The actual giant never turned up, unfortunately, for Phil. He was either pushing people or getting both downs. So I was sticking a big and blocker next to him, and it was the fact that he kept on rolling both downs and burning rerolls, which kind of helped as well. Caused a death, my first death of the season. on turn 4. And then I scored on turn 7, thinking I was relatively safe for the first half. However, straight away, he came back with, in the second half, straight away with a 1-turn touchdown, more or less, using the giant to throw him. So the giant is pretty good at that on that side of things. I was quite pleased because I got a lot of his secret weapons sent off very quickly, because obviously I touched down on turn 7. That meant the main ones went. Then obviously turn 8, and then it was half time. Thought I was comfortable, but unfortunately brought it back on a 1-all. Continued in a similar vein of just slowly grinding him down and keeping the ball out of reach for him, and keeping that giant just where it was. It never really left the main center, which was quite good. And then brought it back on my turn 16 to 2-1. That left Phil to do a 1-turn touchdown. So, yep, he got it perfectly done, and he got a perfect throw, landed beautifully, legged it with just a rush to the touchdown, and failed the rush. So it went right to the wire. It really was. It could have been a 2-all draw, but I held my breath when he rolled that last dice.
Scott, it's Snotlings are an interesting challenge. Phil has gone sort of very he's kind of lent into playing them for, I think, more the fun of it. He's not going down a kind of hack flame route. He's not going down that route. He's normally relying on a giant, bringing the rookies in. He's taking an extra weapon here. It looks like he is just having fun with it. And to his credit, he is getting some very close results. You know, this result here, the result against me, both 2-1 losses, but both could have been very different. So he's kind of leaning into it and enjoying it so much that he is nearly getting some points.
I think, Phil's, to credit, he's sticking with his ethos of playing the giant, embracing the insanity of it, lots of YOLO, which is what we love to see. So yeah, a big shout out to Phil for, bringing all that and continuing to bring that, to it as well. He can cause an upset. There's no reason why Phil cannot have an influence on the final standings of this division by a long way as well. So I think, anybody who writes off a mercenary giant and bomber and all those secret weapons, they do so at their peril. So yeah, well done. Well played, Mr. Phil. Well played.
In the chat saying playing the blobby way, which seems very fitting. The one question I would ask for Phil, and it's because I had a message from podcast host Mr. Tom Feeks asking, and Phil, you can answer this in the chat, if there's any particular reason you haven't spent your treasury on additional Snotlings to fill it up, to then add the rookies to it, to bring you up to 22 or so. But really keen to know if there's any particular reason why you're saving that money. Are you saving it for something in particular, or what's happening? So let us know, because we are keen to know why. But for now, we're going to go to what was our second streamed game of the week.
Sorry, can I just say there, Tom? Apologies. Sorry, Chris, I didn't say well done, Tom.
Okay.
We are going to move on to our next game. We are back to the Eagles of Corn and a very impressive 3-1 victory over the Greystone Gladiators here. One that I would absolutely recommend anybody goes to watch this one, because it was really intriguing to see. I think, to be fair to Justin and his elves, there were a few kind of clutch rolls where dice weren't necessarily going his way, and also the Corn's armor and injury rolls were so consistently 8+ that made it so difficult for Justin to keep any players on the field. So it was a really interesting one to watch. I think it was an absolute credit to Doobs and his and how he has kind of progressed this season from playing basically one of his first games, winning his first game, having some challenging games in the middle, and now coming up to this win is very impressive. But also, I was sat at home, Tom, and I was watching Justin knowing that I've watched Justin on stream before score with 3 players on the pitch. And I was watching it at 2-0 down, expecting it to end 3-2 to the Elves. So we've got to give him some credit for keeping that alive until the very last moment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was next to this game, and it was just incredible to see. You know, you look over, and as we well know, Justin is a fantastic player, and you're like, is that score right? But yeah, like you say, hats off to dudes. He was just unstoppable with those dice, and as Justin will admit, sometimes those dice just don't roll in your favour. There was a couple of times where for Elves, you just think, oh, it's just needed 2 up to do it, and just get that 1, just comes in. And as he's saying in chat, he missed a path through for the ball carrier when he side caged, and the frenzy got him. So that's something that I think, as you say, Dude is slowly learning his team and getting really to grips with it. He's had some hard challenges, and I think it paid off in this game.
Probably the most painful takeaway in this one for Justin Scott will be the strength 4 catcher being stat busted back down to strength 3. It remains in the side at the moment because it's missing next game, so there's no point in removing it. But currently it sits there as a vanilla catcher that costs an additional 80,000. That's a bit of a blow.
Yeah, I saw that, and I think kudos to Justin that he didn't lose any more potential. As you said, right, so Chris, Mike was rolling very consistently above the 8s, and having been in that position myself with this season's elf team and previous elf teams as well, as soon as it becomes a numbers game, it's very, very difficult, even to force uphill blocks or to get itself into a position. So kudos to Justin saying he won't be, cost him 100k to replace, which he doesn't have.
And also on the pitch against you, Chris.
That's fine. We can our stat busted players can just sit and cuddle in the middle of the field.
I think a beauty. So I think that Justin did very, very well to hold it. It could have gone either way. But again, Mike is playing incredibly well. He is, if you look at the team, he's got block now across the majority of the team, which when you do start building corn up to a certain level, and I wonder if Mike has been playing a lot of Blood Bowl 3 this season, starting to look very, very challenging, isn't it? So it's not pretty, to say the least, in terms of all of those strength 4 blood seekers who still have the best power celebration in BB3. If you want to go see it, it's great. And as I said, he is starting, he's got a block tackle as well in terms of a Kongo. And we talked about the importance of Kongo on the last week's NDP. If you're going to foul and want to take one of those players out, you're going to target the Kongo. So to have block in terms of your defensive setup, to have tackle, again, to mitigate when you're going on the offensive. And it's going to be a strength 4 hit with horns. So yeah, there's a lot of good tools and a lot of good foundations here for Mike for the rest of the season.
I think it's definitely, and I'll say it again, it's a game to watch if you want one in the background. If you didn't catch it, it's 2 coaches playing incredibly and really going for it, knowing what they're doing, and sort of the dice were the difference. I think the difference in how they were playing, 3-1 makes it look like a bigger gulf than it was. But having said that, for a first season team, absolutely playing incredibly. And we will look at his next. He's got another result, the last game that we'll come to. Justin's next game is, I believe, this week, and I believe that is against the Chaos Dwarf. So we'll see how he gets on there. That could be a very key one for both coaches as far as qualification goes. Well done to both for an incredible game. Let's move on to our next one, which was our 3rd streamed game of the week, and it was the Orphic Gladiators versus the Elf Preservation Society. A 2-1 victory for the Orphic Gladiators in this one, which I caught in store the very beginning of, and what struck me was immediately the pressure that Chaos Renegade team started to put the Wood Elves under, even with a couple of boneheads and really stupid rolls in the very early turns. Wood Elves receiving the ball and immediately were under a lot of pressure to move it, to be able to control it safely. And ultimately, the Orphic Gladiators took a lead in the first half against the Drive. The Elves did well and managed to come back for their first touchdown of the season and his first touchdown in competitive Blood Bowl. So well done to Mark for that. But the Gladiators then coming back to take the 2-1 through the Goblin, and a 2-1 victory for them. Scott, you're very familiar with both of these teams, having played both of them at points in this season. It's can be tough when you are like you found this season, where you just want to get that first casualty to get it under your belt. It can be tough when you've got a team like Wood Elves who can punish. You want to get that first touchdown so that you get it there. He may not have come away with the points, but he scored his first touchdown. He knows how to score touchdowns. Time to score some more.
Fully agree, Chris. And as well, I think, and I hope that Luke rightly apologized for stat busting Jordo. That's absolutely rude. That's just, it's just, yeah, there's killing elves, but when you got to do it to Jordal Fresh Breeze, I mean, that's rude on a lot of levels. Anyway, I'll speak to Mr. Bagger about that on another day. So yeah, really, Luke knows his Orphic Gladiators inside out, and again, having been on the end of it himself, Luke will pressure, and he'll pressure relentless. He will force you into an error. And again, it's, as you can see there, as soon as you start losing that numbers, as soon as you start losing your key players, such as, the most souped up war dancer in the game, it's going to be a long old afternoon. So kudos for Mark for sticking in there, for getting it back to 1-1. And again, it was a last play. It's almost his, the meme now of Luke Baggett. It's that throw teammate. It's what gets him those last turn touchdowns as well. So it was, yeah. And actually it was Jordell double sculling against the Goblin into the casualty. So that's the twist of the knife, isn't it? Really, as an elf player. So my heart goes out to you, Mark, on that. But you're going in the right direction. Keep going, and don't be distracted by Luke's fabulous beard. That's all I'll say.
Tom, it's we all pretty much labelled Luke as a coach to beat this season after his incredible run last season. Got all the way to the final, redrafted some really key players here. He's been kept honest this season. He's had some good wins, but he's also been kept honest by coaches. 2 draws, a close game here as well. A good a sign that no one is indestructible in this game for any other of his opponents to come.
Yeah, and as you say, he won 2-1, but he didn't get a lot of SPP for it, and he didn't do a lot of damage by looking at this. But from the Wood Elf side, it's that high risk of putting all your eggs in one basket with just one star player inducements. So, a question to Scott, our resident elf coach: would you have done the same? Would you have just gone for all out, just one player, or would you have gone slightly different?
I would have started probably down the, which I have done, I probably will do in the future, the 2 war dancers, 2 reroll routes. Mark went with the 1 war dancer, 1 thrower, 3 rerolls. And it's always a trade-off in terms of how you start that building process with your elves as well. He's done pretty well. In terms of, if you look at the skills he's randomized as well, block is always good. You've got leader on your thrower. So that gives you, that, and that's a chosen one, as you can see, gives you that now 4th reroll. So you can build on that as well. Dodge and sprints and effect and movement 10 piece gives you that opportunity for the 1-turn touchdown. Makes it a bit easier as well. So I think there's a lot to do in there as well. I think the quicker he can get maybe one of the key core skills on that war dancer, that'll really push him. As soon as their elves, war dancers, and especially get those critical core skills, whether you talk strip ball, whether you talk tackle or something else, they do start having a bigger impact on the game. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get there.
Luke breaking lots of armor but only getting stuns and KOs in this game makes you wonder whether there is a game coming up where the armor breaks and the casualties are going to start rolling in. So we will keep an eye out for that. Mark in the chat saying, I really need a strip ball on a war dance and need to get him running in for some touchdowns. I think it's only a matter of time. We put, maybe we jinxed Mark a little bit. We put him as one to watch. But to his credit, he is in a tough group with some seasoned players playing against lots of redrafted teams here. He's had an uphill struggle, but there are still some points to be had in this group, and we could see, biding his time, getting some SPP. We could see a good playoff run. Moving on to our next game then, and it is a 1-0 victory for the Los Amazon Dodgers versus the Harlequins. Amazons versus Dark Elves here. 1-0 on touchdowns, 1-0 on casualties in what looks like a slightly quiet game as far as tour play tells us. The one thing I will immediately say is if you haven't seen Simon's Dark Elves yet, they are pretty beautiful. They are so wonderfully painted. I would absolutely if you get a chance to see them. We'll try and get them on the stream so everyone can have a nice look. Scott, the Dark Elves, Simon's had a kind of mixed start to the season. He's got some good results. He's 2 wins, 2 losses so far in what is quite a tough group. So he's keeping himself in the mix, and he brought the most positional heavy Dark Elf team, which has started to get some skills on it. So a loss here, but in a strong position to move forward.
I think with the third reroll now, because when Simon started this, he had the 1 reroll, so he's invested in those 2 extra rerolls, which is making a big difference. Simon's journey this season, halfway through this season so far, in the league stage at least, very similar, and to a lot of journeys that we've seen. We talked about this in the last few weeks in terms of perhaps the theme of season 9. Anybody can beat anybody on their day. There are a lot of upsets, a lot of impacts from draws as well as actual wins and losses. So you can see that as well. And apart from the Mr. James Handley performance, when again he did have 1 reroll on his first match as well, everything there's only been 1 touchdown difference. So it feels like Simon is definitely finding his feet. The 2-runner option is giving him things, is giving other coaches to think about as well. He's got his 2 blitzers. Will he increase now to go for a 3rd blitzer? So he's got that. Kick is giving him and the dump off a bit more control around the board as well. So very much to a couple of the coaches we've talked again about tonight. So we've talked about Mike a few moments earlier with his call. Simon's, got some good foundations here to build on.
Tom, Harrison is a coach who I regularly like to jinx and hype up how well he's going to do. He's currently 2 wins and a draw from his first 3 games. And those wins have come against, some potential sort of trip up opponents. Simon, Jack, and Carl, all very good coaches. He's sort of got off to a good start.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially swapping over from his usual orc team to the Amazons, which are quite agile, but not as agile as elves. It clearly was potentially a quite tactical game. Hence the lack of any injuries or anything going along those lines. Equally, it could have been a simple thing on the basis that the dice just didn't get anywhere and everyone was just being pushed around really, rather than actually getting any both downs or pals. So yeah, he's doing well. He's slowly building this team. We don't know whether this is a one-off and he'll go back to the Orcs in the next season, or whether he's building this up to be a 2-season team.
The only comment I will make is that looking at his roster, if he could explain to me why the blockers, throwers, and blitzers are all not nicely, neatly next to each other on tour play. That's just there's a cog in my brain that's upsetting. So Harrison, if you could just deal with that, although then the numbers would be out of sync. Oh man, what have you done to me? Never mind. I'm gonna have to move on. I can't keep looking at it. Well done, Harrison, for a good 3 points scored in that game. We will go on to our penultimate game here, which is the Doombringers versus Skex's Carrying Pieces, a 2-1 victory for the Lizards here. For these two, and a good result for Ash here. JD putting up a good fight, and JD is definitely a coach who can trip players up. He's got some very skilled Dark Elves in this team. He has gone full random on a lot of these skills, except for the one chosen block, and he's got some very daunting players, and I think a roster that can easily trip you up because there's lots of different skills that are all over the place here. But Ash has done very well to overcome that, taking a lead on turn 5 here. Lots of fouls, a player sent off on turn 4 for JD. A dead Saurus blocker on turn 9 is going to be painful for Ash's season moving forward. Equalizer coming on turn 12 from the Witch Elf, but inevitably a winner on turn 16 from the Skinks here. Scott, JD's Dark Elf team, again, are a bit of an anomaly with all the Dark Elves that we've got because they're redrafted. They redrafted with a lot of skills. He's the only person who is quite so reliant on his assassins, and he does use them to good use here. But the randoms, do you think we're getting to a point where the randoms may start to punish him a little bit because the team are maybe not too focused?
I think you might have a point there, Chris. I think it's that very fine balance as a Blood Bowl coach between a level of, so we say, eclectic eccentricity versus having those skills which maximize your synergies across the team as well. I'm assuming that you were smiling when you saw that the Crocs got a couple of casualties, so she behaved herself.
Always happy to see a well-behaved Crocs. Always
Yeah,
happy.
it's what people are. So the fact that JD's key assassin Widowmaker was taken out, turn 1, turn 1, turn 2. So that's always going to be a difficult one uphill on that. Yes, taking out Sure Feet Tackle Frenzy Pro is a real challenging one as well. Now, that's not to say JD doesn't have any other, players who can turn around a match in a very quick space of time. But suddenly having, one or two of these key players off, is this going to start to impact him as well? So it's been a tough season, I think, for JD. Seems, from what I understand, it's still enjoying it, still playing it with the love of Blood Bowl he's so renowned for as well. And Ash is gradually creeping up that 3 from 3 now in his last 3 matches. So looking very good as well. But again, I think any coach, you look at the all of those random skills that JD's got on the Doombringers, you can't underestimate them or write them off in any way, shape, or form.
Tom, looking at Ash's team and his results, he got 2 very difficult games out of the way. He's now got himself on a good run. And he's clearly, focusing on the right areas here. He's replaced that Saurus already that was killed. So he's back up to 6, although 1 is missing the next game. And he's being patient with his skills as well. Block tackle on a Saurus, block on a Skink. Do we think he's kind of been quite slow to skill up? It's not he's not rampantly got skills in games. He's not quite maybe got the SPP to get the skills he wants quite so quickly. Do we think he's going to be sort of a late bloomer in this stage? Get into playoffs with just enough and then have a bit of a storming run?
Yeah, I suppose you know better than anyone in regards to lizards. That it sometimes gets quite difficult to get them skilled up to the right point. And obviously, the first 2 games didn't really go in his favour, especially going up against Tom Huns and John Reeder in the first 2. But he's clearly got the understanding of these lizards now after the next 3 wins. And again, as you say, in this game, that Crocs was absolutely devastating, causing multiple casualties. Shame about, unfortunately, getting some casualties himself. So it's one of those kind of situations where he just needs to get a break and just keep some of the players alive.
Yeah, looking at some of the plays he's gone through already this season, one Bloxsaurus killed, one Skink lineman killed, another Bloxsaurus that had strength 3, so that was sacked, a Chameleon Skink that was edge 4, so that was sacked. It's not just that he's taken some of the injuries, he's taken some pretty key players injured pretty badly that you can't really just risk leaving them there. So he has been a bit unlucky with the beating that he's taken. Hopefully he's on a bit of a good run. I would love to see Ash get a good run in the playoffs and break into that top 4. I think he's on a good enough run that he can get into that top 4. We'll have a look at what the groups look like in a moment, but we will go to our last game of the day, which is another win for the Eagles of Corn in what is their final group game, the last group game they have here, and a 2-0 victory over the Snotlings, and 2-0 victory, 9-1 on the casualties here, 28 SPP, an absolutely storming result here for Mike and his Corn side. I mean, Scott, when you play Snotlings, they can be really frustrating because of all of that sidestep and dodge that they've got. They can be really difficult to actually get down on the floor. But when you do start to remove them, you can absolutely milk the SPP from that team.
You can, Chris, and this is the perfect example of doing just that. You have to roll. Your dice have to be behaving themselves and rolling well to enable you to do that. You've got to put your you've got to put your players in the position to earn those SP as well. So you've got to make sure that you put yourself in base contact, you get your blocks on, you can get your blitz out of everything. You've got to keep watching out for that giant as well, because that giant's still on the pitch. So are the 2 ogres as well. So is Fungus. So that's Fungus Flinger. Yeah. So there's a lot of things you've got to keep an eye out for. You see when, turn 8, the giant gets a casualty, boom, injury, someone's gone. So it can turn for you very quickly. So you've got to be disciplined and make sure that in spades today. So well done, Mike, indeed. And as you said, Chris, having for his first season to have, in his last 3 games, 1, 2, draw 1, that's a very, very good run of form.
Tom, this game caps the Snotlings a maximum points of 9 points in this group stage. That doesn't look like that will be enough in this group. It leaves Mike on 10 points, which is going to be touch and go. He is now going to be relying on other teams to slip up, maybe. Do you think he's done enough here, or do you think that he's going to just miss out?
Like you say, it's going to be really difficult because there's 3 teams on 7, 1 on 6, and another one on 3. But the one on 3 still has 4 games to play. So yeah, like it's going to be a really tough, tight game on this side of things. Is even 12 points enough on this particular run of things?
I damn hope so, Tom.
But again, Mike has done fantastic on this one where. I wonder whether it was the fact that because it's Corn and you get effectively an extra roll on when you do your blocking and you do your blitzing, it got to his advantage. Great to see that on turn 5 he badly injured a troll as well. In fact, Mr. Blobby, the original, and then killing straight away 2 turns later, killing a Snotling. It's interesting to see these lineups with the Snotlings because I may be wrong, but I never really see the pump wagons doing anything particularly good in these roles. Are they there just to gum up the works, or is there a real reason for them?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because they've got Dirty Player, but they are a relatively expensive, strong positional piece within the team to risk fouling with. It's a little bit like the Death Roller. Is very tempted to foul with them, but they're a secret weapon. They're going to get sent off at some point. They're very, very expensive. Is that the best use of them? So they're a slightly confusing position. Yeah, I I do wonder. And there's Phil's only gone for the one in this team. I think Andy's only gone for one in his team as well. And so it's interesting whether they are normally kind of a staple here, because the trolls are much more useful, and not having it keeps your team value down. And then can you bring Varag in, or can you bring someone else strong in? So it is an odd position, the pump wagon. It's quite unique within the game. Let's have a look at the tables then, and see how all of these results are impacting things. Looking at Dark Side, Jack sits at the top of that table with all of his games played, so he is going to be looking down 12 points. I think, and I've had a look at previous groups, I've had a look at 16 team groups, I've had a look at 14 groups. Sometimes 12 points is enough, and sometimes it is not. So we'll see whether Jack manages to cling into that top four with 12 points. James and the Disco Danger Rats still unbeaten, move up to second, and Los Amazons Dodgers in third, again unbeaten in this group, and absolutely the teams to beat here. Looking at Longship, Tom Huns, Ash, John, and Robert make up the top four, and I'm looking at this group and I'm thinking that's going to be the top four. They're making a bit of a breakaway of it. Robert with many games in hand there, and a very, very scary looking side. But there are still games to play, and we'll see what order they finish, because Tom's looking good at the top there, but there are teams below him who have games in hand. Looking at Middenheim, Orphic Gladiators moved to the top. Dave Rue briefly sat at the top of the table before Luke got his game in. Those two absolutely leading the way here. The World's Edge Berserkers will be finishing their game tomorrow, so we'll know the result of that. But currently it's 1-0, which would take them up into joint second in this group. Scott, having played 6 games, currently sitting in 5th, looking like he'll stay in that bottom 4. But
happy to stay there, Chris.
Happy with where he is.
Happy with that.
And Swamp Dome, 12 points for the Mighty Ducks, still sat at the top of the table, but then look at what is below them. 10 points, 7 points, 7 points, 7 points, 6 points. It is a very tight middle of the table here, with lots of key results coming up this week. By the end of the week, Dawizar and the Boneyard Blitzers will have both played all of their games, so we will know a lot better what this group is going to look like. That's everyone. That's all of the games for this week. Thank you, everybody, for getting your games in. Deadline for the games is the 7th of September by close of shop, which is 5 o'clock on the 7th of September. Remember, if you don't think you're going to get your games in, if you're struggling at all, contact myself or Luke or Scott, and we will be happy to step in and help you out. But well done, everyone. The percentage of games played compared to the percentage of time that has passed is exactly what we want to see. So everyone is getting a good spread out bunch of games in, which we love. So thank you everyone for all that effort. And we'll call it there. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you everybody for joining us this week. We will be back next week for another roundup of all of the games from the A&DBBL season 9. We'll see you then.